Okay, so this is a little bit different from what I usually do, and as many of you know that my channel usually comprises of Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 video and sometimes other games, and this one is just a little bit different for a change, really. Now, as you can see in here that these are the components for my new desktop, and for some of you who have been following my channel, you will notice that there was in the recent videos, a couple of them, my quality in terms of the graphic images, there are some of them are not up to the standard, and by that I mean some of them has malfunctioning graphic. And the problem was my laptop. As many of you know that I use my laptop primarily. I did have a desktop, but I sold it and then I bought another laptop because I was traveling. And so my laptop was the graphic card on my laptop was malfunctioning, and it finally it's not up to the standard anymore, and it's very difficult for me to record and do other videos with the graphic card being malfunctioning. Some of the games that I play, some of the games are very not very high demanding for the graphic, and it still has some graphic issue. And so I sent it back the letter to MSI. My laptop is at MSI Gaming, by the way. And so I sent a letter to MSI and get it to return it to the factory so they can see what's going on with it. And so because I don't have any laptop with me, so I decided just might as well just go for go build another computer. So yeah, that's what I did. And this is my new computer. First, there was another series of video footage that I did for this build of mine, but apparently some of the footage was damaged when I was converting it. I mean, not converting it, I was transferring from another hard drive, from one of my external hard drives to my computer, my new computer, and it just got damaged and it's gone. It's like 6 hours of my building process just gone. So yeah, I was planning to show you guys how I build my computer, but apparently I just couldn't because it's done, it's gone, it's damaged, it's gone, fuck. So I was very disappointed, but yeah, what can I do? So I guess that I'm just gonna show you the components that I bought, and also my computer and my benchmark, and yeah, that's pretty much what I can do, aside from the fact that I cannot do anything with the damaged footage. And because some of you that I personal friends of mine, you guys wanted to see my new rig, and so wanted to see my gaming benchmark, so if it's worth your budget or not. Oh, and by the way, I understand that the majority of you in my channel are from the US, and so for the price tag that I pay for this computer would not reflect the US market. Okay, so at the moment I'm in Australia, and the price tag that I pay for the entire computer like this is $1,641, and I ignore the currency exchange. Yeah, just ignore the currency conversion. I'm pretty sure that if you spend 1,600 and let's round it up to like $1,650. If you spend $1,650 in the US, you can get a much better build than this. I can assure you that, because I have a friend and he can vouch for me for this. So Kelvin, if you can, then just comment on this video that how much you spend for your computer, and for the price that you spend on it, would that can you get a better deal? But I'm pretty sure that you can, because he's also building another computer too, and much better than me, much better than me. So yeah, so this is some sort of, if you are in the US, this one will, I'm just taking a guess here. I don't know how much would that cost, because I don't have any like data of the price tag of the components in the US with me at the moment. So I would assume that for the For this build, it will only cost you about $1,000, 1,000 to $1,200 around that. So it's just my estimate guess. So I don't know exactly the number, but if it's something that you will be looking for, then this is something that you might be interested in. If not, then it might be some sort of references, so that you can take it into consideration when you're starting your own build. So yeah, that's it for the introduction. Now let's get on to the components, shall we? Now these boxes are not all of the components because I throw away some of them, but I chose to go with the i5 Skylake, the new one. The new CPU just came out recently. I think it came out in July. Oh no, not in July. It came out in August, around August, beginning of August, end of July in Australia. Well, I don't know the exact date that they came out, but they were available around the end of July, beginning of August, or something like that in Australia, and I just recently bought it like last week or so. I put my order in last week, but I didn't finalize it until this week because the process takes place and I was busy, so I couldn't come to the store and pick it up. So yeah, I just pick it up and put them on together. It took me quite a lot of time to put them in together because it's been a while since I built another computer. So I chose to go with the Core i5 Skylake, and the code name for this one is 6600. Now this is a non-overclock edition, and many of you will ask me like, okay, why don't you go for the overclock edition? Well, again, I mean, this is the Australian market I'm talking about, and the price tag for the motherboard and also for the i5 overclock edition, there are two versions for the i5 same series. 6600 is a non-overclock, but if it has a K at the end, 6600K, that's an overclock edition. So I didn't go with the overclock edition because of the money issue. Originally I was only going for $1,500, but then I have to push it to $1,641. So it's a little bit out of my budget already, and I don't think I can spend any more money into this. But in saying that, if you're in the US, because I know a lot of you do live in the US, so for those people, those friends of mine who are currently living in the US, it will be much cheaper for you to go for the overclock edition, and it will be much cheaper for you to go for the i7 if you can. Don't go for i5 if you can afford the i7, and especially the i7 6700K. Then go for that one, because it's just give you so much more for the same money that you pay, for the same money that you spend, like 1,000. I'm looking at $1,500 to $1,600. Okay, so yeah, again, if you're in the US, don't go for this bill, but I mean, like, taken into the assumption that you have $1,500 to $1,600 to spend. But if you have around $1,000 to $1,200, then this bill might be something that you will be looking for. So yeah, it's not that I don't want to go with the overclocking bill, but it's just the money is the issue, because it's the Australian electronic components like PCs, and it's just overpriced in my personal opinion. In here, this one cost me $328, if I remember that correctly, and the overclocking edition is $360. And for the motherboard, for the overclocking gaming edition, that would cost $279. For the non-gaming edition, that will be around like $220 or $220 to $229, around that range. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I just couldn't go with the overclocking as much as I like to go overclocking, but I couldn't. So yeah, that's why I go ahead with the i5 6600. But again, in the US, please go with the overclocking edition, because it just gives you so much more for the money that you spend. And for this CPU, they will include I'm just gonna take off my sandal. For this one, they will include the CPU will also include the heatsink that come with it. Now, this is not something that I would use, honestly, because I did overclocking my computers in the past. Not one of them, but I did have quite a few computers, both for my brother and me, and I also built a couple of computers for my friends, but that was several years ago. Then I stopped building computers because, you know, I happy with my previous build, but I had to sell it because I was traveling. So because of that, I don't like having the heatsink that came with a CPU because it's not up to my standard. I usually prefer to go with the custom heatsink, or I usually go with the water cooling option. Now, it's been a while since I built my computer. I stopped building my computers ever since it was back in 2011. So back in the day, I wasn't using all-in-one water cooling, liquid cooling. I was using another one, which is custom cooling, and it requires so much time to do the maintenance and stuff. So nowadays, you guys have the option to purchase the all-in-one water cooling, and so it will save you the time and effort to maintain the liquid cooling, your liquid cooler. So yeah, if you have the option to, if you can afford to go with the overclocking, please go with either a decent heatsink like the Noctua or the Cyborg Ultimate, or what else is there? Yeah, I can't remember all of them on top of my head right now, but I remember there was a, if you choose to go with air cooling option, please either go with the Noctua, because that's the one that I used before, but it's so expensive in Australia. And I think there's another one that has the name Cyborg or something like that, or Cooler Master is okay. Yeah, Cooler Master is alright. But if you go with the water cooling option, I had a look around, and also a friend of mine in Australia that bought a water cooling, and he would recommend to go with the Corsair H105, if I remember the code name, if I remember that code name correctly. So either go with that or the air, so it's up to you, but I would highly recommend the all-in-one water cooling because it just gives you so much better, and it just cool your CPU. It just make your CPU cooler too. And this is the important notice, because sometimes, like, if you're not installing your CPU right, then there will be a possibility that it will damage your pin, and if you damage your pin, then it's not covered in your warranty, and the manufacturer can decline to refund or to exchange for you to another one. So if this is your first time, I mean, like, for some of you who hasn't built a computer before, then you might need to have a look at some of the other channels that they do have the video that show you how to put in a CPU socket together. I think a couple of them, if I remember correctly, is Linus Tech Tips. That's the one that I had a look at a few years ago, and also NCI Tech Tips. That's the one that I had a look at a few years ago too. But yeah, yeah, when if it's your first time building a computer, then you might have a look at the CPU and how to install it properly. But to give you an overview of putting in a socket, I will show you. I will show it to you when I flip over to my case, which is over there. So CPU, I go with i5, and also for the gaming motherboard, I go with the Gigabyte H170. And now this one is a DDR4 RAM edition, and it's also a gaming edition as well. And by gaming, it has Now there's several gaming edition for motherboard on the market, so you don't necessarily have to go with this one if you don't want to. But just to give you an overview of this, of what a gaming motherboard does, is that it has the option of an onboard sound card that usually has the amplifier as well, and then it has a killer LAN network, which is increase the performance of your internet, so you know it will reduce the lag for those of you who play a lot of online games and multiplayers like Counter-Strike, World of Warcraft, and Guild Wars 2, etc. So yeah, it will reduce the lag for you, and especially for games like high intensive combat like Dota 2, I think other mobile games like League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm, which is this one right here. I did play it, it was fun. Counter-Strike, Battlefield, Call of Duty, etc. So you would want to have something that can increase your performance of your Ethernet network, internet network. So that, and also it has the M2 SSD option. So what the M2 does is that it has a faster transferring and reading speed, and I don't have the exact number with me at the moment, but it's up to 32 gigabyte per second, and now that's insane. But please remember that M2 SSD at the moment it's quite costly. I think one M2, last time that I had a look at it, cost about like $350 to $400 one piece of SSD, and it's only about like 240 gigabyte. So I didn't go with it. Obviously, but if it's something that you will be looking at, then yeah, it's fast, and you know it can increase the time for you to load the game. I mean, like it can reduce the time to load the game and just to make it faster for you, so you know you can do other things. And then it can support the multiple Crossfire multi-graphics. So this one support AMD graphic card, but it can also support the SLI from NVIDIA as well. Now for the graphic card, I choose to go with AMD. Now I don't want to get into the whole AMD versus NVIDIA, because you know I'm not a fanboy of any of those, and I'm not in no way discredit one or the other. It just at the end of the day, I look at the price tag, and I look at the function, and I look at the performance. Within the price tags, can I do this? Then if the graphic card permits me to run that effectively and efficiently, then I will go ahead and buy it. I'm not looking at the brand name alone. I'm looking at the price tag, and I'm looking at the performance. Can it deliver me the experience that I want within that price tag? Then I'll go ahead and with it. So yeah, it can support two graphic cards together in the Crossfire or SLI mode if you want to go that way. As you can see in here, one and then the other, and then you put a SLI bridge cable. And then it has the SATA Express, so it can support with your normal HDD hard drive with this as well, up to 16 gigabyte. And then for this one, it has a USB backup, which if any of you who has an external sound card, or if any of you who has a DAC, which stand for digital to analog converter, you might want to plug it into this one, because it can increase the performance for your DAC and your sound card, because it reduces the noises. And I think that all the manufacturer for gaming edition has this one as well. So you know, this is just one of them. You feel free to go with the other one. I think that there are several options on the market that you can have a look at. The other one that I had a look at from the other ones are from the MSI, which they do have a gaming edition as well, and also Asus has one as well, and also ASRock, if I pronounce that correctly. ASRock, Asus, and MSI, and Gigabyte. Those four are the only ones that I know of. Now, yeah, I think that's only those four in the market, right? Anyway, I'm not really sure how many are on the market, but those four are the ones that I had a look at that has gaming edition that are available for me to purchase in Australia. There are four of them: MSI, Asus, ASRock, and Gearby. Yeah. So I chose to go with the Gearby. I had a look at the other two, the Asus and MSI. I haven't heard of ASRock. So yeah. And again, I haven't been building computer. I haven't had a look at the computer components industry for years. It's been 4 years since I had a look at it. It's like since 2011. So yeah, I'm a little bit out of date, but you know, I did a bit of research before I actually go ahead and purchase these. So out of the four available for me in Australia, I chose to go with Gearby is because I have an external an external sound card, and it's quite a decent one too. That's why I choose to go with the USB DAC, even though it has a USB even though it has an internal sound card, but I have a better one. That's why I chose to go with the USB DAC with this one. But you know, at the end of the day, they are pretty much the same. It's just a little bit, you know, different here and there. So when you choose your gaming motherboard, you might want to have a look at, you know, the extra features and then comparing them. But the base one, the base features, they should be the same. So there should not be any major differences between the two of them. It's just the minor thing between, you know, extra features, extra stuff that come with a motherboard. But you might also want to have a look at the benchmark online of these gaming motherboards and comparing them. But in my personal opinion, there should not be any major differences. But you might want to double check with the benchmarks and have a look at it. Now that's pretty much it, except for one. Oh, there's one last thing that I want to mention. Now H170. Now H stands for non-overclocking edition. For this, the overclocking edition for the motherboard for this one would be Z170. So if you are buying the overclocking CPU that has the K at the end, either i5 or i7, you know, i5 6600K or i7 6800K, then you would want to go for the Z edition. Don't go for the H, because if you go for the H one, you won't be able to overclock it. It's not overclockable. This motherboard is not overclockable for CPU. So please keep that in mind, and don't, you know, spend your money and then at the end of the day you realize that you bought the wrong motherboard. So please keep that in mind. I will also include a link in one of the articles that I found online, so that you can have a look at the motherboard and choose which one is suitable for your budget. But in summary, overclocking, please go with Z170. Non-overclocking, go with H170 for gaming. And you can choose to go with the gaming edition, or you can choose to go with other edition as well. The normal edition is entirely up to you, but I chose to go with gaming because this is the most important part, and the majority of the gaming motherboard should have this. So yep. Now before I talk about my GPU, my graphic card, I will talk about the power supply. Now there are several power supply on the market, so there shouldn't be any major there'll be, you know, major differences between all of them. But in saying that, you should always be checking with the go efficiency and also the benchmark for the power supplies, because sometimes cheap genetic power supplies would not be up to the task. So there are several brands that I know of that can, you know, do the job properly. Skylake is one of them. Skylake is always my preferences, top of the line. But I'll explain to you why I choose to go with this. Skylake is one of them. The other one is Corsair, and also the other one, another one is the what was it? Corsair, Skylake, Thermotech. I have heard of Thermotech as well. I have also heard of the what was the name of that one? Silverstone. Yes, Silverstone. EVGA is one of the newest addition to the brands, because I haven't heard of EVGA making power supply before, but I have heard that they're making graphic card. XFX is also making power supply. Be Quiet is also another one, which is the new one from Germany. Be Quiet, they make cases and they also make power supplies. But yeah, please have a look at efficiency of the power supply. I choose to go with, my minimum standard is to go with gold. I don't go with anything lower than gold. It's just my preferences. And gold stand for, if it has something in here, gold, so it's delivering up to 90% efficiency. So yep, that's why I chose to go with it, and it has 10 years guarantee. So yep, that's better. So yeah, this for the same price tag, I had a look at Skylake, I had a look at all the power supply on the market, XFX, Corsair, and etc. And it's the one that stands out the most is from EVGA, because it's offering 10 years warranty. So that's why I chose to go with it, and it's fully modular. Fully modular means that you can plug in the ones that you need and get rid of the one that you don't want to. So it's make it easier for cable management. And because I already put it into my computer, so I cannot show you what does it look like when it's come out of the box, but I can show you the cable. It looks like this. Yeah, the cable looks like that, and it has the cable tied in as well. So it's better, it's good for cable management. But please keep that in mind that for those of you who want to make it even tighter, you might want to purchase the cable mods. Now this one is still a little bit thick in my opinion. I have seen the cable mods are very thin. It's like that thin, and so this one is still a little bit thick in my opinion. And I have seen like the one that thinner, and so I would prefer to have a thinner, but I can't complain for the value. I mean, like, hang on. Yeah, so I can't complain for this one because it's good, and it's also provide you with a lot of options. Oh fuck it, I'll do it later. And now let's come to the graphic card. Now when I choose the graphic card, I usually look at benchmark for these, and the last benchmark that I had a look at was from one of the guys on YouTube. I will include a link down in the description where I got his benchmark from, and it seems to me that between this one and the 970 from Nvidia, because I compare those two, between this one and 970 from Nvidia, this one offers me a lot more options in comparison to the 970, and it also offering me an 8GB VRAM, which I do have a 4K monitor, and that will increase. It will, well, it's not increase, but it will make it my gaming experience better on 4K using this card. Now again, for those of you who are living in the US, this does not reflect the US market. This one, I think in the US it will only cost you $329, and for the Nvidia 970 graphic card, that one only costs you about $359. In here, in Australian dollars, this one is 519. What a ripoff. And the 970 is around $550 to $580, or some of them can even go for $600 and above. But in the US, you can get a 980 Ti for around, I think, I'm just making an estimate guess, so around like $600 to $700 card. Or if you choose to go with a 980 card, it should be cheaper for you guys as well. It's only about like $500, I would assume. Or you can go with the other options as the 390X, but 390X is only a slightly increase from the 390. because I had a look at some of the benchmark online, and a lot of people told me the same thing too. The 390X only increased a slight performance in comparison to the 390, so you would save a lot of money just to go with the 390 instead of going with the 390X. That's what a lot of people say, and I look at benchmark, and not one person, but many people having similar benchmarks with between the 390 and 390X. So I went ahead with the 390. I didn't go with the 390X because I don't want to spend an extra $100 on the 390X for only a slight increase. That is not economical for me. Especially in Australia, the 390X is about $600 to $650. So it's a little bit rip off compared to in the US is only at $400 something, and the 980 Nvidia is cheaper in the US as well, and also the 980 Ti. Fuck, that card is god, that is beast. Well, I rule out the Titan X because the Titan X is too much money. In Australia, the Titan X is $1,500, $1,500, or sometimes it can go up to $1,700. It's just too much money to spend on a graphic card. So I rule out the effect of Titan X because that's just nuts. But if you have the money to go for the Titan X, why not? Because it gives you so much performance for the money, and also it's currently the beast in the market at the moment. And second to that, I think is the Fury X from AMD. But again, a lot of benchmarks that I had a look at, it seems to me that the 980 Ti is better than the Fury X at the moment. So it's very subjective in the graphic card. So I would not recommend, which one is better than the other. And I don't want to have any debate on this either, because it's very subjective on what you prefer, and so it will be better for you to have a look at the benchmark and form your own decision and then purchase it yourself. But in my situation, again, in my purely my situation, and also purely my opinion, that I chose to go with the AMD R9 390 gaming edition 8GB VRAM is because this is the one that fit within my budget, and this is the one that give me the performance that I wanted for the price money. So yeah, price to performance, this one is the best in Australia. So if you live in Australia, you would be looking at something like this. And if you're in the US, I mean, if you're looking at this build of mine, then you might be looking at to spend around $1,000 to $1,200. I'm just making an estimate guess. But if you have $1,500 to $1,600, then you might consider to go for the i7 overclocking edition, i7 6700K, and also the 980 Ti. So yeah, within around that range. So like $1,500 to $1,700, within that range. So yeah, I will give you the benchmark for this one, of course. After this video, there will be a benchmark for this one as well, and I also give you I'll also give you some of the benchmarks for other games in game that I have in my libraries, because I don't have all of the games on the market to test. So I will select out the ones that the majority of people plays. So like and also good for benchmarking as well. I don't have Witcher 3, but I do have Tomb Raider, I do have Hitman Absolution, I do have Metro Last Light, and I also do have Bioshock Infinite, and I also do have a couple more. And I also do have 3D Mark, and I also do have other ones as well. So I will benchmarking my computer. I'll be benchmarking my GPU as well, so you can have a look at it and see if it's worth your purchase or not. I mean, if it's something that you within your price tag, and it's something that within your consideration, then feel free to go ahead with it. Otherwise, it can be your preferences when looking at for your own personal build. Now for the SSD, oopsie. Now for the SSD, I chose to go with the Samsung SSD A50 250GB Evo. Now this one only cost me about 400. It has 5-year limited warranty as well, and it costs about 139 $139. So if you are in the US, this might be a little bit cheaper for you, but again, I can't speak for the US market because I don't have I don't look at the US market that much. From what I have been told from either benchmarking videos of all the tech savvy that I benchmark, like the tech sip and also J2 Cents, if I remember that guy names correctly, that channel correctly, and also Tech Syndicate, if I remember that correctly, etc. So I had a look at the benchmark for those guys for some of the graphic card, etc. CPU before I go ahead and make my decisions. But again, at the end of the day, it's just how much you spend for the for your computer. So for the case, I used to go with the Deep Cool Candoman. Now this one is a budget one, obviously, but even so, it does the job, and it costs about like 69 Australian dollars. But so if you're in the US, it's probably a little bit cheaper. I don't know. I'm just making a guess here. So if it's something that within your budget, then go ahead with it. But if it's something that outside your budget, then you may want to reduce it to another case. But I cannot give you the names of other case because there's so many of them on the market, and I don't have the list with me at the moment. But this is something that I had a look at because it's for the price that you spend, you have so much value from this. You have five fans in total, and also you have LED light for the fans as well. So this is my case, and also my complete computer. Now let me just turn it on. Oh, let's turn it off. Now as you can see in here, so there we go. Because one hand I'm holding my camera, and the other hand I'm holding the picking up the parts and shit. This one, it has a dust filter, and so at the front it's the dust filter as well. Now you have two front LED fans. Now I think this one is 140 millimeter. Is it? Yeah, I think this one is 140. You have two fans at the top. I don't know how loud it is, but it doesn't really bother me that much, honestly. Even when I'm gaming at night, I couldn't hear anything. So I guess that it depends on the people. Some people, they prefer to be extremely quiet, but me, this one doesn't really bother me. So I'm just gonna put my camera really close to the fan so you can hear. All right, now I'm gonna put it a little bit further away because this is the distance I usually sitting on my computer and gaming. So in here, if you can hear from the camera, then it's loud. If it's not, then it should be okay. But in my personal opinion, it's not really that big of a deal. Yeah, so you have two fans at the top, two fans at the front, and one rear fan at the back. And also for my RAM, I use Corsair. Now this is 16 GB of DDR4 RAMs. So that will give me a bit of a performance, because I don't consider anything that less than 16 GB nowadays. And I'm also planning to upgrade it into 32 GB later on. But again, at the moment I'm gaming with i5, and so it does the job. But in the future, I'm considering giving this this one to my brother. If that was to be the case, then because we're living together, so if that was to be the case, then I will buy another computer and I just go ahead with 32 GB of RAM. But in saying that, in the future, then if the games are more demanding and if I need to upgrade my RAM, then I will go ahead with a 32 GB option, and also change my CPU to the i7 as well, or an upgrade version of the of the Skylake of the i5, depending on the how much are they going to charge me at the end of the day. So power supply, and also this is you know, as you can see, the graphic card. Now my cable management is not, you know, the best because yeah, I did it yesterday, so I didn't have much sleep over this, you know, installing and etc, and then I just too lazy to tie them like this part together, so I'll do it later on. So that's the motherboard, and then there's a light from the audio to go straight to the audio check port in here. And also this is the heatsink. This is the budget heatsink. It costs about $30 in Australia. Now this is the Ryzen Tech. I will also include the name of this heatsink down in the description, so you can have a look at it. But it does the job, and it's so much better than the one that you know they include in the box from Intel. I don't like that one. So yeah, I prefer to go with something like this. Or if you have a little bit extra cash, then you might consider to go with liquid cooling. I would vouch for liquid cooling any day. And if you don't want to go with liquid cooling, then you might consider the option to go with air cooling, but please spend a little bit extra money. If you're going with the overclocking edition, please spend a little bit extra money to go with something a little bit decent, like the Noctua or the Noctua, Cooler Master, or Corsair. So any of those would do. But have a look at the market around, because you know I used Corsair in the past, so I can only speak from my experience with Corsair, and they're good. But in saying that, because I haven't updated my, you know, I haven't building that much over for a few years already, so I'm not sure which one is the best in the market. But it seems to me that a lot of people prefer to go for the Corsair H105 liquid cooling options, because that gives them a lot of performance for the price that I spend for, and also for the components and etc. So yeah, I mean, have a look around the market, have a look at the benchmark, and see which one fits with your budget, and which one is, you know, the performance that you are looking for. But you know, I don't want to be biased. I don't want to be biased because, you know, I only used Corsair in the past, so you know, there may be a better one on the market, so, but I don't know which one, because I haven't tested them myself before, and I can only give you my opinion of the components that I personally have used in the past. So if I haven't used it before, I won't give any opinion on that, because yeah, it would, yeah, and it would be better for you to just have a look at the benchmark. Same with this. I haven't used the 970 yet. That's why I went and had a look at the benchmark from Jay's 2 cents. Again, I'll have to double check with his channel name, and I'll get back to you. So, and I would include the link down in the description. So I had a look at the benchmark between for the Jay's 2 cents between this graphic card and the 970, and it seemed to me that the 390 is more fit for my purpose, and also for the price tag. That's why I chose to go ahead with it. But if the 970 is what you are looking for, then by all means go ahead with the 970. I'm not saying which one is better than the other. It's just, at the end of the day, does it fit with your budget? Does it fit with your purpose? Does it give you the performance that you are looking for? If so, bang on it. Alright, so this is my SSD, and this is also my 2.5 hard drive. Now this is from my other computers that I took it out before I sold it, because, you know, the other guy, he doesn't want to have this one. So I'm like, okay, cool, I can deduct it out of the money, and I take this one. So this is 1 terabyte. This is on 250 SSD, and I have the option to put another 3.5. Now there is another box in here, another case box in here that you can put in for 2.5 for hard drive or SSD, but I took it out because I want to have more air inflow from this fan right at the front to blow into my graphic card. So yeah, you have the option to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have the option to go with 6 internal hard drives, but I don't think that, you know, it would, because I don't use a lot of hard drives, so I only go with one. I usually just go with one SSD and also 2 internal hard drive, either 4 TB from Western Digital, the red one, or the black one. I'm looking at the black one at the moment, but I'm not gonna buy it just yet because these are good for now. But in the future, I'm thinking about getting a black Western Digital for another storage, internal storage. But yeah, so this is my personal preferences. So feel free to modify it to your needs. So 1 SSD and 2 other hard drive. Doesn't matter what sort of capacity it has. But minimum is 1 TB. I prefer to have minimum of 1 TB. So yeah, this is 3.5, but you can mount 2.5 SSD or hard drive inside this. And then the other one, this one right here for this case, Candleman case, you can only mount a 2.5 bay drive. That's it. You can only mount 2.5. And so let's have a look at the front. This is low, and this is high mode for your fans. This is reset button. This is a power button. And if we have a look at the back, and yeah, this if you fussy about the like, because I know that some of my friends are a little bit fuzzy about cable management, and so they want it to be very tight, and so they don't want to see a lot of cable lying around. But I mean, like, me personally, this one is okay. But again, I will sort it out later on. But yeah, because I only had about a few hours of sleep last night ever since I started building this computer, so I'm a little bit lazy at the moment. So cable management, EVGA include the cable tie management, and they are really good. In my personal opinion, they are really good. I have to thank EVGA for this. So they have one, they have several one. I think they have up to 4, but I took out 2 of them, and then I tied them in for this one. But some of the cable mods that I have seen for my friends, for the power supply cable to go to your motherboard and to go to your graphic card, they are this thin. So some of them are this thin. So if it's something that you would be looking at, the thin cable, then you might have to spend extra money for those cables, and some of them can be quite expensive too. Like in Australia, one of them costs about like $40, and some of them can cost up to $100. So I'm not that fussy about cable, as long as I can tie it in at the back and also clear out the effect, and it doesn't stand out the way too much, then I'm happy with it. Just kick myself. Yeah, it doesn't stand out the way too much, then I'm happy with it. Like this one, there's a room for the air to flow into my graphic card, and there's a room to flow from here to my drive, and also there, for the power supply. Well, it doesn't have a lot of air flowing from here because these cable blocking it, but it does have the exhaust fan at the bottom, and it also does have a filter at the bottom too. I'm not sure you can see. I don't think that you can see. Yep, see that? Yeah, this is the bottom dust filter. I might have to turn the case around and then plug it back together later. And yeah, LED light at the back, and also you have the option to go for the optical drive or fan control or whatever. But I mean, honestly, I don't want to go with optical drive because I don't use them nowadays. I haven't seen any of my friends in Australia using optical drive nowadays. Even for fan control, they don't even use it either. So yeah, but if that's something that you will be looking for, then feel free, go ahead with it. But they include 3 options for you. Three cases, cages for you to put in your optical drive, fan control, etc. if you want to go with that way, and 6 hard drive. So that's pretty much it for my computer. I apologize that it was not intended to be this short, because I was planning to show you how I put these together, but the video got damaged, and so it just fucked up the entire thing. So yeah, it's nothing that I can do with it. Oh, and also like when you plug in your CPU, you have to be very careful. And because I already put them in together, so I don't want to plug them out and plug them back in because that's too much effort. And also I already applied the thermal paste. Thermal paste is the paste that allows the heat to transfer from the CPU to the heatsink um, more effectively, and so that it can reduce the heat of your CPU. That's how that's my interpretation of that. And so I already applied that one. I already applied everything. I already mounted and put in the socket and screwdriver and shit and whatnot. So it's very, it's quite a bit of an effort to take them out, show you how it's done, and put them back together. Because I spent 6 hours yesterday doing this one already. So including the installing the software and shit and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope that this information will help you. I mean, well, I haven't shown you the benchmark yet, haven't I? So but I do hope that after seeing this video along with the benchmarks and along with the price tag and etc, and the component that I spent onto this one, it would assist you in your your next build, or in improving your current build or whatever. But please keep that in mind that this, again, I know, I understand, I have been saying this again and again, but I want to make it very clear that this is the Australian price tag. So in the US, and I would assume that a lot of you in the US, that it probably be better for you to go with a more higher version if you are going to spend the same amount that I spent in this one, that is $1,641. Ignore the currency transactions. Yeah, if you have $1,650 in the US, you probably get a much better deal than this one. I consider this one to be an average. It's not budget. I consider this one to be an average build. For the budget build, you'll be looking at the 950 or 960 NVIDIA. And for the graphic card, you'll be looking at the 370 or 390 for AMD size. But I prefer to go with a little bit, a bit extra performance. That's why I chose to go with this one. And for my experience that I have tested for like an hour, I'm happy with it. But again, I will include the benchmark. I will include the benchmark for the games, so that you can see that and form your opinion. And so I hope that it can give you some sort of references, so that you can take into consideration for your next build or your upgrade, or whatever. So again, thanks for watching, and thanks for understanding, because I always prefer to show you how I build it, but yeah, that's the thing I can do. So thanks for watching, thanks for understanding. And Kevin, if you can, please, can you give a comment? Can you comment on this video? I mean, oh sorry, wrong way. Can you comment on this video and let the people know how much you spend on your computer for the same amount of money? Or I think that you went with another option, spending a little bit extra, but whatever. So yeah, just let them know that how much would it cost you to upgrade to another one. I mean, upgrade your current, I mean, not upgrading, building your new computer. And so, and then for other friends of mine, yep, this is the build that you guys request me to upload the video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope for some of you who who are not frequently visit my channel, that you can find this information useful. And I will include the name of all the tech savvy in the industry, so that they can give you a better explanation of the benchmarkings and etc. So yeah, I've been yapping for too long, so I'll stop it here, and I will see you in the benchmark video. And then after that, I hope you enjoy the information, and have a good day. Alright, so as I promised to you guys earlier in my previous video, that I'll be showing you guys the game benchmark that I have for some of the games that I have in my library. And now, as I mentioned earlier, that I don't have all of the games available on the market, and even so, there are a limited amount of games that have the benchmarking tool, so I'll be using that instead. So let's just get right onto it, shall we? Now, there are 5 games that I have in my library that have the benchmarking tool built inside it. The first one is the Batman Arkham City. The second one is BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, Hitman Absolution, and the last one is Metro Last Light. Now for the Metro Last Light, I will include that in a separate video so you guys can have a look at it later. So for the minimum frame rate per second for the Batman Arkham City, I have only 28. BioShock Infinite is 14.16, Tomb Raider 58, Hitman Absolution 48. Now for the Tomb Raider and the Hitman Absolution, I'm not surprised when I see the minimum frame rate. The reason for that is because Tomb Raider and Hitman Absolution, they are tailored for AMD and not NVIDIA, and so because they optimize for AMD card, so they are perceived to be better when playing on the AMD card. And in saying that, the Batman Arkham City, they are optimized for the NVIDIA, and BioShock is also optimized for NVIDIA and not AMD, because they have the advanced physics built inside in the game, and so like it's physics is from NVIDIA, and I'm not sure what was the feature from AMD. I can't remember, I'm top of my head at the moment, but anyway, so Batman Arkham City 28 is what I would expect it anyway, and for BioShock Infinite is a little bit low in my personal opinion, but still it's I'll show you what I mean by I'm not considering this to be the factor when I'm playing. But yeah, and just to give you a little bit of background of the Batman Arkham City, is a good game. It's one of the most extraordinary games that I have ever played. The second to that is BioShock Infinite. Now, this Batman Arkham City came out in 2011, and BioShock Infinite came out in 2013, if I remember that correctly. And Tomb Raider came out in 2012, and Hitman Absolution came out in 2011. Again, I could be wrong on the release date, but these 5, including Metro Last Light, which I will include in it later on. The 5 games that I tested, they are quite 3 of them are quite recent, 2013, 2013 and 2012, and the other 2 is was quite old, back in 2011. But regardless, they still have a decent benchmarking tool, and when I did it, I can see why, because the tool itself, when it was testing my computer, it was throwing in the environment with a lot of people, especially for the Hitman Absolution. It came out in 2011, but for the benchmarking, it was a scene where it was inside of the Chinese New Year festival or something like that there. So because in the festival there would be a lot of characters inside that, and to be able to display all of the textures, it's quite hardware consuming, and so that's why I chose it. And besides, it's one of the games that I have the benchmarking tool in my library anyway. And so let's move on to the average frame per second. Now this is something that I look at when I started gaming, because I'm not considering the minimum or the maximum. I mean, like it's an indicator of how much of a frame rate per second that I'll be looking for in regard to minimum and maximum, what my graphic card can perform. But I usually prefer to have a look at the average one, because that's what my computer will be displaying to me most of the time when I'm start gaming anyway. So for the Batman Arkham City 56, BioShock 111, Tomb Raider 59.9, so let's round it up to like 60, shall we? Hitman Absolution 58.68, so let's round up to like 59. So for the Batman Arkham City is what I expected anyway, and the setting that I have for all of these tests are done in an extreme, with the exception of Batman and BioShock Infinite, is that I turn off the advanced physics from NVIDIA, because I don't think it's fair for me to test those features in AMD card, because they are tailored for NVIDIA. And so if you have a 970 NVIDIA graphic card, or if you have anything to do with NVIDIA 980 Ti, you may have to turn you may want to turn the physics of NVIDIA on, because they tailor for this particular kind of games. Tomb Raider, Hitman Absolution, they are optimized for AMD. So, I'm not surprised to see that, it's constantly running at 59.9 and 59 for Absolution. So let's round it up to 60, So for the average of Tomb Raider and Hitman, I'm not surprised. But for the Batman Arkham City, well, not Batman Arkham City, but for the BioShock Infinite, I'm very surprised that my graphic card is able to perform 111. That's a little bit, I wouldn't say extreme, but it's a little bit out of my expectation, because I was expecting it to be about around 60 to 70, or the maximum that I would expect it to be like 80 frame rate per second for the average. But seeing it can achieve 111 is a little bit yeah, it's a little bit shocked to me. And just for me to be clear, is that I ran the test for BioShock Infinite 5 times. 5 times for BioShock Infinite before I actually, select the most stable one and give it to you. And believe me, I have seen that the average frame rate per second to go up to like 160 frame rate per second, and I don't think it's right. So that was the first test, and then I tested multiple times, like 5 times in a row, to see, what is the most accurate one, and I pick out this one because, it's the most stable one in my personal opinion. All of my 5 tests for BioShock Infinite. For the Batman Arkham City, it's consistent in between like 56, well, not 56, more like 55 to 60. So I pick out, the middle point, which is 56. And for Tomb Raider and Hitman Absolution, there's no surprise there, because, they're optimized for AMD, so they are to be correct. Now for the maximum frame rate per second, Batman Arkham City 60, no surprising there. BioShock Infinite 206. It's extreme. I have to say it's extreme. And for the Tomb Raider, I have 60. Nothing surprised me there. Hitman Absolution 103. Well, it's optimized for AMD, and the game came out in 2011, so I'm not very surprised to see the figure come, shoot up to 103 for Hitman Absolution. Tomb Raider came out in 2012, and so, maximum frame rate per second, 60 frame rate per second is somewhat I expected. Same with Batman Arkham City as well. But for BioShock Infinite to shoot up to 206 is a little bit extreme, but this is the most stable one, the most accurate one in my personal opinion, all of my 5 tests, because the maximum frame rate per second for my other tests went up to 659. And I don't think that's correct. That was the first time, that was the first test I ran on BioShock. And so I ran again and again, just to see which one is the most accurate one. And this one, this one is the most accurate one, in my personal opinion. And so because of that, I'd like to turn the attention to BioShock Infinite, just to give you the proof that it's not, how should I put it? It's not, cheating on the frame rate or anything like that, because I tested again and again, and these are the stats per scene of the benchmarking tool built inside BioShock Infinite. So for the average frame rate per second is 93 for the first welcome scene, and the minimum frame rate is 30, so it's understandable, and the maximum frame rate is 190. So let's round it up. And so for the scene change, BioShock Infinite saying that disregard performance in this section because it's changing from one scene to another, but I still include that into become I still include that in my slide to be minimum frame rate per second. The reason for that is because I understand it's a scene changing, but it's worth noting that how low can my graphic card will perform, and so that I'll keep that into my consideration when I'm recording my footage. And so yeah, and so the maximum one that I have is 206. Now for the overall performance for the scene duration is 81.74 seconds, so that would be around 1 minute and 20 seconds, and the average frame rate per second is 111, and the minimum frame rate per second is 14, as I already mentioned it to you earlier. But seeing this, and also they say that benchmark finish disregard performance in this section is 206 for the maximum frame rate per second. But even so, the maximum frame rate per second is quite consistent. you know, so it's make it more believable to me that I think that it would be able to pull it off to at least 200 frame rate per second. And for the minimum frame rate per second, I would say around like 14 frame rate per second to 30 frame rate per second. And for the average one, I'm happy with it. I'm actually more than happy with it because, you know, it's more than what I expected. I expect 60 frame rate per second to be my minimum standard when I'm gaming on a PC. And so seeing the figure from one of the games that just recently came out, to be able to pull it off into more than 90 frame rate per second is, you know, I'm very happy with it. And so for the next one, which is the Metro Last Light. Now for the Metro Last Light, I ran 3 tests for the benchmarking. And as you can see in this, that, you know, I have the resolution and the setting, etc. in that. And you also notice that I disable the advanced physics from the NVIDIA because, you know, it's not fair for AMD to have that option tick on. And so I take that one off. And aside from that, the rest of them are on very high setting, like, well, it's maximum setting anyway. And so as you can see in here that the average frame rate per second for all the 3 tests is at 48.33. The maximum frame rate I was able to pull off is 81.75, so let's round up to 82. And the minimum frame rate is 2.5, well, more like 2.6. Let's round it up, shall we? So I'm not very surprised to see this figure, because, you know, Metro Last Light was, when it was released back in 2013, I didn't buy it until now. I mean, like this year, I bought it during Steam sale at the end of last year. For like, I think I bought it for like, you know, $10 or so, $7.50 or $10 or so, with all of the DLC attached to it. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for it. It was below $10, so it was very cheap. And so to be able to see a game that quite heavily hardware consume, you know, hardware demanding, to be able to pull off something like this for an average PC, I'm very happy with this result. And, you know, I've seen that my friends who, they have the 980 Ti and they were able to pull off more than I do, but that's what, you know, that's what the 980 Ti does, because it's one of the high-end cards. And my one is considered to be budget in the US, and in Australia it's considered, well, I consider it to be an average in Australia because of the price tag. But to be able to see this, to pull off something like this, even for the budget, well, even for the performance card build, I'm stoked, I'm happy, I mean, yeah. And let's turn the attention to the 3D Mark result. Now, the run details that I have for this one, that my computer was able to perform 9,929 for the score, and it's better than 78 or 78% of all the results. Now the gaming PC recommended spec is at for the 3D Mark. I paid for the 3D Mark, by the way. It was quite cheap. It was about $5 or something like that when I bought it during Steam sales. So it wasn't really that, you know, that expensive or anything like that at all. And so to be able to see that, you know, my score is better than the gaming recommended spec is stock. I was expected to be around the gaming, you know, at least the minimum gaming, you know, recommended specs, which is 9,271. But to see us able to pull off something like this is, you know, is extraordinary. Well, not extraordinary, but yeah, you know, I don't have the words that I can describe this feeling, because, you know, I was expecting this build of mine to be average at best, but to be able to see that pull off above average is good. I'm happy with it, even though it's not, you know, it's not above average, if you know what I mean. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be shooting up at least like 14,000 score. I wasn't expecting to be you know, like 10, well, it's close to 10,000 score anyway, but I wasn't expecting to be like 12,000 to 14,000 score. But to be able to see it, like, you know, shooting up with more than, you know, it's around like 10,000 score is something that I you know, stock. happy with it. And for 4K gaming, well, 4K gaming you would need like 17,805 score, which is, it's not in my consideration at the moment. Because 4K gaming, well, let me just give you this way: the majority of the people that I know of, they're still gaming in 1080p, and the majority of the YouTube gaming channels that I have watched in the past, and also recently as well, because I watch a lot of YouTube gaming channel from Heroes of the Storm, Dota 2, and also recently I'm just getting back to StarCraft, by the way. And so yeah, I see that a lot of people still gaming in 1080p, so I don't see any point to be going for 4K gaming at the moment. But don't get me wrong in here, 4K gaming will be our future. I would give it until I'm not giving it, but I would predict that 4K gaming will be the norm for us in around 2017, because at the moment the 4K gaming monitor is about $500, $550 in Australia for the one of the budget cheap gaming 4K gaming monitor. Well, not 4K gaming monitor, but more for the 4K monitor from AOC, if I remember that correctly, the brand name. And so I think that in the US you guys can get it cheaper for 4K monitor gaming, but you see back in the 2011 1080p monitor was quite expensive, and it didn't get until 2014, if I remember that correctly, that the price tag for 1080p monitor went down to around $200 to $250 for one monitor. At the moment of a 1080p monitor in Australia is costing about somewhere between $180 to around $250, depend. That's an average one, so it's reasonable. It's not that cheap, but it's reasonable, it's affordable. And so I would expect the 4K gaming monitor to be our well, not gaming monitor, but I would expect the 4K monitor to be our norm in 2 years time, because 4K became a phenomenal, if I have to put it that way, to us. Well, I did not become aware of 4K until 2014, and even so, back in 14, which is last year, not many people in my gaming group that play in a 4K monitor. It wasn't until recently, which is a few months ago, that a lot of people in my personal friends of mine, they start gaming on 4K, and they told me that just wait for the price tag of 4K monitor to come down a little bit, because at the moment it's still a little bit pricey. And so I listened to them, and 4K monitor would be something that I would look at in about 2016, end of 2016, beginning of 2014. But at the moment, no, I'm not looking at 4K. So yeah, so for those of you who are looking at 4K gaming, I would highly recommend you to wait until next year, or because it's at the end of 2015 anyway, so you might as well just wait for the holiday to come up to see if there are any sale for you to go for the 4K. Or I would highly recommend you to wait until next year to see how it goes. But for me, I will buy the 4K. I will look into the 4K option in 2017, not now. So yeah, 1080p is still good for now, and so I'm happy with the score of 10,000. Well, let's round it up to 10,000 points, shall we? So I'm happy with the score of 3D Mark results, and this is a little bit detailed for you. The result for 3D Mark is graphic test 1. I achieved 57.98, so let's round it up to 58. And for the graphic test 2, let's round up to 50 frame rate per second. Physics test 25, which is a little bit low. Combined test is 22.2, again, which is a little bit low, but it's a combination of all of the tests together. So I'm not surprised to see that the result is a little bit low for for this card of mine. And even so, it's still able to perform 3D Mark score at 9,929, and the graphics score is 12,261. So I'm okay with it. And I ran a naughty engine testing benchmark, which is called Unigine Heaven Benchmark 4.0, and the frame rate per second that I have for this one is 56.6, and the score that I have for this one is 1425. Minimum frame rate 8.7, and maximum frame rate 115, and everything that I have in this setting is on ultra and extreme. And as you can see on the top of my of the slide is that the temperature is 272,000 Celsius. Now I don't believe that to be true, and before I do the voiceover for this one, I had a look at on Reddit, and I had a look at a few comments on several benchmarking forums, and they have been saying to me that that figure is not true, so just completely ignore that one and just look at the benchmark itself. And a lot of people that I have a 200 to 300,000 like temperatures for the Celsius, and I just like, if it's like 200,000 something, 272,000 something, I would be burning alive right now. I wouldn't be talking to you. So I don't think it's right. But regardless, the testing for the Unigine Heaven benchmark is quite solid, and that's why I stick with it, because it was recommended to me by a lot of people. That's why I stick with it, and I run this one for a couple of times. I think it's about 5 times or so before I pick out this one, which is the last one that I ran. So overall, I'm happy with my build, and I'm happy with the benchmark, the result for the benchmark that I have received from my benchmarking tools and from my games. And so, I hope that it can be some sort of useful information to you, especially for those of you who are looking for a performance gaming in the US, and also for the average build in Australia, or whatever region you are living at the moment, because I can't speak for the market of every single country outside of my capability. And so I'm only capable of speaking to you from the Australian market and a little bit from the US market, because I have a lot of gaming friends from the US, and also I have watched the majority of the channel of benchmarking, and they are from the US as well. And so I can only speak from my from my information, from the information that I have gathered from the from my own experience and from the US market. I am not an expert in this, so if you can find any expert source on this one, and you think that my information is not correct or anything, feel free to stick with that expert source. I'm just giving you the information from my own experience that I have I have experienced through with my benchmarking, so it can be some sort of references, so you can look at that and determine your build. And for those of you who are looking at building a high-end computer or planning to build another computer in the future, I hope that this can be some sort of references for you as well. And if you are looking to build a side computer for maybe for your siblings, your brother, your sister, or maybe your wife, or maybe your husband, or maybe your gaming partner, etc., boyfriend, girlfriend, this may be something that you would be this information from this build is maybe something that may be useful for you, for your references in the future. And so I hope you find this information useful, and I will stop here, and I will see you later.